I'm Andrew Willett for A Pro Basketball Show. Follow and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as following on social media at APBShow on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to follow me as well at TheACWillett22. Thank you so much for tuning in, and without further ado, hello and welcome to A Pro Basketball Show. I am so excited for today's episode. We were talking just before this about how much I have been trying to make this happen. Really one of my targets from the very start of this podcast. And I'm just so happy to be welcomed now by Jasmine Harper as she's a social director as well as a journalist with Winsidr, does so much great work covering the W. Jasmine, thank you so much for joining the show. How are you?
Pretty good. It's actually a nice day outside. Yeah, I was just ready to kind of talk basketball. It's been a lot of activity in the WNBA this season, so yeah, I'm ready to dive in.
I love it. Yeah, today we're gonna touch on a little bit of what you've been doing recently, the WNBA as a whole, but the main focus of today's episode, and I think anyone who listens to this podcast is knows we talked about the Dallas Wings quite a bit.
Mhm.
It's just a team that fascinates me, and really a conundrum in the
Mhm.
Dallas Wings, but a lot of potential. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. I'm happy it's a nice day outside today. But what have you been working on recently?
Yeah, so recently, I've collaborated with some of my Winsidr partners to get a couple articles out. So the first one that I did was with Miles from Winsidr. We decided to cover Unrivaled, which is a new 3-on-3 and 1v1 league coming to Miami, Florida next January. And we kind of just wanted to get a temperature check in with Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier during Miles' time with the Liberty and over the All-Star break to see what all Unrivaled is actually about and what is the goal for it, overall when it comes to the WNBA and the prioritization clause. And the next article that I wrote was with Imani Wright. She covers the LA Sparks for Winsidr, and Blake Silverman. He's kind of one of our national beats. He kind of does a little bit of everything. And we basically talked about the coaching carousel of the WNBA and how a lot of head coaches over the past few years, since at least I've been covering in 2021, I've just kind of been circling in and out and what that means for the league itself and also those franchises.
Well, you've got a couple there that have been on this show, Miles Ehrlich and Imani
Mm-hmm.
Wright, a few times. That's very awesome. It sounds like
My
you've been,
faves.
yeah, they are great, great, great people, and I've been very happy to have them on the show. It sounds like you've been really busy. I think to start off with that first article you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, could you explain to everyone what exactly, because it has been an issue of prioritization in the WNBA.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, I believe that players with 3 more years of experience in the WNBA, they have to start reporting to the league on time and not prioritizing their overseas commitments over the WNBA. So although most people are against it, I am one of the people that actually am for
Ooh.
prioritization because of essentially the long-term effect of what it has. Like if we want the WNBA to be recognized and to be acknowledged and to really contend with these other leagues, then we have to prioritize that.
Mm.
So showing up late for work, sometimes you're not always able to do that for your job. So I think that prioritization, although it does put the players in an uncomfortable position right now, it'll have a long-term payout with when it's time for negotiations for owners to negotiate more money. It's like, oh, players are actually showing up on time and they're putting in the work and, they want to get paid. So owners may be a little bit more reluctant or a little bit more swayed to do that now because players are prioritizing the league and things of that nature.
Yeah, I can see kind of the positive benefits from that, and you hear
Mm-hmm.
from some different players like a Bruce Stewart who has been
Mm-hmm.
opposed to it in the past. So they go and make this league for the offseason. I believe it's a 3-by-3 league.
Yeah,
Um,
it's 3-on-3 and 1-on-1. So you'll
okay,
have those very two good formats. So kind of, I think 3-on-3 has really gotten the eyes of everybody since I believe it was Alicia Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Stephanie Dolson, if I'm not mistaken.
and
They
there was
completed in the Olympics and
Jackie
got their
Young as
3-on-3
well,
medal.
maybe.
Yeah, I think Jackie Young was on that team too. Yeah, I think she was the fourth player. So
Hmm.
yeah, like since then, a lot of eyes have been taken to the 3-on-3 format. And then who doesn't want to see the best players in the league go 1-on-1? Like no,
Yes.
but like nobody's gonna disagree with that.
Couldn't agree. I think the one-on-one aspect is something that, in terms of
Yeah.
like all-star games, like people have been talking
Hmm.
about how to make this weekend more exciting.
Hmm.
One-on-one would be a great way, and so I think that's a really cool thing. How does this league though help with WNBA players and just in general when it comes from not the WNBA season?
Yeah, so it gives them an option to play domestically, basically in the United States. So you don't have to go overseas and travel or go all around the world in order to play basketball while also making a great salary to compete with that. I think just this week or maybe 2 days ago, Nafisa Collier went on a show called Outside the Lines, I believe it was, and she was saying that the players in Unrivaled will probably get six-figure salaries, and that's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. So just be able to have a league where you can play at home, people can come and see you. You don't have to be away from your family for long hours, and you're still getting a competitive salary similar to the WNBA. I think like that's a win-win.
That would be a huge bonus for these players, not only to
Mm-hmm.
stay home for a lot of them, but also, I mean, six-figure salaries sounds really good for a startup league
Mm-hmm.
like Unrivaled. So that's great to hear. The other article that you spent some time on, and Blake Silverman, someone I haven't had on the podcast yet.
Mm-hmm. You should
Um,
get them. Go ahead and grab
uh-huh,
them.
uh-huh. But no, you worked on that article talking about kind of the coaching carousel. And
Yeah,
I mean, it's been 10, I believe 10 out of 12 teams have had a new coach in the last two seasons.
yeah. I think just about that much. And I believe there's only 3 or 4 coaches with like 8 seasons or more experience, which is of course the coaches that we see all the time. So just a revolving door of coaches, just kind of like it's an unsettling part of the WNBA for me because you really want to see true investment in these women and these athletes and what they bring to the table because like they're the best of the best and everybody wants to play in the WNBA. So, with that same respect, you also want people who want to coach in the WNBA.
Mm.
And in the in the case of James Wade and Vanessa Nygaard, I think that with Vanessa, she was kind of put into a lose-lose situation last year with
Mm.
everything that was going on with Brittany Griner, and then you had situations with Skylar Diggins-Smith, and the team chemistry was just all over the place. It wasn't in a good spot, and I don't think she handled it in the best way that a head coach should. But this also, that specific situation with the head coaching spot shows that you can't just throw anyone into the pot. It's best to have like some very strong head coaching experience coming into the W, especially when you have a roster like what Phoenix had last year.
Yeah, I mean that Phoenix roster, it's even with the terrible events with Brittany Griner, could
Mm-hmm.
have been a very good team, and things derailed from there. But I think that's a
Yeah.
good point. You mentioned the kind of how teams need to do maybe a better job of finding head
Mm-hmm.
coaches, and specifically on your post about it, you said talking
Mm-hmm.
about how front offices need a better vetting process when
Yeah.
it comes to head coaches. What do you have in mind there?
Um, so I'm not going to say that I have a list of ideas that I'm just going to run down by own it to like throw out there. But just overall, finding somebody or having somebody that truly wants to be in the league for years. And I think James Wade did do that, but also in the same way that he built up the Chicago Sky, he kind of tore it down and left them in a very bad situation with draft picks for the next few years to come.
Yes.
So I think with betting processes, one, I think a coach like Pokey Chapman, who has had a
Hmm.
lot of success in this league, and she's still in this league, but she's not a head coach right now. When you have somebody like her who's just an assistant coach or helping out in Seattle, there's always that chance where you can go and interview her. Something similar to what happened with LT. She was with the Sparks for a while. She got an interview with the Dallas Reeds, and now she's the head coach. Giving these people who have already been in the league and I'm very invested in the league, giving them a chance to actually be at the helm again or be at the helm for once, I think that's what's best. But in the case of James Wade, I was just very disappointed in his wording of everything and saying that he wanted to expand his head coaching level to the next level or whatever that meant, because at the end of the day, you had arguably one of the highest positions in the WNBA, being the last general manager and head coach. And you felt that that wasn't enough. And that I can see why players and fans or media members can take that offensively, because essentially at the end of the day, you're saying that the WNBA is like a stepping stool.
I was totally there with you in terms of James Wade, where I mean, you said like it'd be fair for fans, players, media members to be upset. I was pretty upset by kind of
Mm-hmm.
how he went out mid-season like that with the comments that came out and the position that he
Mm-hmm.
left Chicago in when I mean a lot of Chicago was relying on him heavily, and he made the decision
Mm-hmm.
for selfishly for himself. He said that much, but I, I'm with you there. In terms of kind of the coaching carousel, to wrap that thought up, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's good to have new faces always coming in and having an opportunity in the league. I'm with you though, where the vetting
Mm-hmm.
process could be a little bit better there. The WNBA season I mean, we're 25 to 30 games into the season at this point. The Aces have already clinched a playoff spot. I think they did so with like 14 games left, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot has happened. All-Star break. We're heading up to Commissioner's Cup, I believe, and honestly, in a great spot. What are your takeaways from so far in the WNBA season?
Yeah, let's see. Quick takes, quick takes. AT is having a monstrous season. Alyssa Thomas, so proud of her and what she's doing in Connecticut. I want her to get both of her shoulders fixed so that we can really see what she can do on the court. Like, we need it, we need it, we need it. The Las Vegas Aces are a freight train that cannot be stopped. If you think you can stop them, please make sure your tracks are oiled, because you're going to be slipping and sliding all over the place. They're the top of the top, and it's very undeniable, like how they're playing right now. It's unreal, and they're putting up some historic numbers. And I think that while these two teams are really good and could cause a lot of problems to the top two, three teams in the league, the loss, sorry, not the loss, the Los Angeles Sparks and the Dallas Wings won't be a contender until the next year to 3 years.
Oh, okay. We'll start that out right away with the Dallas wins. Not this season, you think? We'll talk about
Mm-hmm.
that and
Yeah,
a
not
whole.
this season.
Okay. That's really interesting, I think. But yeah, we'll talk about that here soon. Let's hop right into Dallas, and their season. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that we're gonna start from the head coaching spot. How have you
Mm-hmm.
seen LT start as a rookie head coach this season?
LT's coming into Dallas has actually been very refreshing. Even just sitting in on the press conferences over the last 3 years, seeing the different energy with the team and things like that. Granted, a lot of them are newer players, but even Satu and Enrique, they're more responsive, they're more open, they're enjoying their time on the basketball floor. And I think that for LT to get her team to commit the way that they have on the defensive end in the season isn't even over yet. Like, we haven't even wrapped the season, and they are giving teams a run for their money, like night in and night out. So I think that the foundation that LT has laid right now in Dallas is going to serve her very well for years to come. And that's one reason why I say I think that they're not a contender this year, because of course they're still trying to get their flow, their rhythm, and their core together. Especially with a lot of the injuries and hardship players and things like that, the rotations weren't really settled at the beginning of the year. However, next year, if you intend to bring back the same core, or you intend to build your core this year to carry you on for the next few years, they are very well at a very great starting point right now.
I agree with that. I'm gonna hold out a glimmer of hope on my side that
Okay.
maybe something breaks right. Something would have to break right for
Mm-hmm.
this Dallas Wins team. But I mean I love the two stars at the top. I wasn't sold on Arike as kind of a number one option, but I think
Mm-hmm.
like she's made some changes this year. And then Satu Sabali, I have been sold. She's been healthy this year. I think that's a very
Mm-hmm.
large difference. But I think starting with the head of the snake as the head coach, it's really been Enrique, and it has been for some time with this Dallas Wings team. How have you seen her kind of adapt to LT's system and even change her game a little bit this season?
Yeah, so I want to say she's playing a lot more team ball, and she's averaging the most assists of her career with 4.6. So I think that, and I've said this all the time, even during the preseason, when Greg Bibb decided to trade away Alicia, trade away Ty, KT, didn't renew Isabel's contract and things like that, he essentially made Arike uncomfortable. And it was time for her to get uncomfortable. If you want to win, you
Hmm.
kind of have to do something different. And I think that with LT coming in and a new set of players, I don't want to say it forced Arike because of course I can't speak for her, but it made her kind of open up her game to where she has to share the ball now. You can't really score on your own anymore because you have a way bigger, well, not way bigger, because I still think the roster that Dallas had the past few years were very competitive and filled with great players. But now your tool belt is to where you technically don't even have to be the only scorer anymore. And I mean, she shouldn't want to be. If I have Satu Sabli on my team and Tierra McCowan in a post, I don't have to score every time. I'm going to make sure that my assist ratio gets up. I'm going to make sure that Satu can hit a three or that McCowan can get a post entry pass for me. Like, I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing the wealth around everything. Um, I do think she does have a little bit more room for improvement when it comes to passing because she has had like a couple bad passes in back-to-back games or playing off ball. She's been doing that a lot more. I've noticed this season, which I quite enjoyed. However, I do think that she has to get better with knowing when to attack versus when to like pass the ball at the right time. But outside of that, her aggressiveness, her defense, for one, has been tremendous to watch. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Arike this aggressive when she's defending somebody. And even like a game last night when she played Jewel Lloyd, like those are some of the best like defending minutes that you're going to see from her.
Yeah, the passing, the defense, I couldn't agree more with you
Mm-hmm.
there. It's been really cool to watch that. I think it's interesting and probably good that you can still find some ways where even as good
Mm-hmm.
as she has been, she can improve in a couple of
Yeah.
ways. But a lot of talent around her this season. Satu Sabali has had a splendid year. But it's so awesome to watch her as I mean, the first triple double as this iteration of the Dallas Wings franchise
Mm-hmm.
in Dallas. Really cool. And then a name, I think, kind of an unsung hero, Natasha Howard, also having kind of a underrated season, kind of an underrated member of that core. Um, no,
Um,
okay, you got some Natasha Howard thoughts. Let's hear those.
So I'm not down on Natasha Howard. I'm still trying to
Oh,
find her fit within Dallas. I know that LT wants her to play on the perimeter a lot more, but I promise you, if you watch her, her best games are in the mid range and in the post. Like that is where she does the most damage, and that's where she can be the most successful. So I think she's like maybe check her text real quick. Mm, yeah, so she's the third highest at 3-point percentage for the team with 29.1%. However, I think that she's more efficient when she's shooting in the mid range and playing in the post. I'm not going to say that she's having an underrated season because she is a little inconsistent. She does have those moments where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is Natasha Howard. Like she's putting on a show right now. She wants us to know like what's going on. But I think she just needs to have that consistency a little bit more, and then I'll be a little less harsh.
hey,
But
I'm right. I'm here for it.
yeah, as far as Satu, she's really just having the best season of her career. I think her and Jordan Canada are the poster people, maybe even Alana Smith in Chicago for most improved player this season. Just watching her be aggressive and just really perform like a unicorn. Like we've really been able to see her get her a bag. She's leading the Wings in 3-point percentage with 35%. She's she's rebounding well. Her aggression is
Yes.
there. The defense is there. Like she's not afraid to go at you. Like I just think that she's fully healthy and her body is also trusting her. And she's performing at a level that a lot of people probably didn't even know that she had.
All right, so this kind of kickstarts a discussion around. I mean, obviously Natasha Howard. We discussed her. Satu's awesome. You mentioned Tierra
Mm-hmm.
McCowan. But something I've been talking about on this podcast is like, hey, the big room down low. What version of kind of the rotation is best for this Dallas Wings team? Is it when they
Hmm.
could play? I mean, they have versions of the big room where they can play small down low, and
Hmm.
Natasha Howard to play the five. They can play really
Hmm.
big with we've seen them play both Kalani Brown and Tiara Matawan at certain points. Um,
Hmm.
but what do you think is kind of the best rotation down low for this team?
I think it's when they're feeding McCowan. I think that with how dominant she is and like just having her on the court because of her size and like length just causes a problem for other defenses to kind of game plan for. So I think that's when they're at their strongest, when they're feeding her, but also letting their guards get a piece of the pie as well.
Okay, that's fair. And then you like to see like a Kalani Brown step in for her, or
Hmm.
would you like bench minutes to be a little more small? Or are you just like let's play this bid, let's take advantage of that size because Dallas has a lot of it.
Yeah, I think that I would love to see a lot more Kalani and McCowan minutes together, but that would come at the expense of Natasha Howard. So I think that if you keep Tiara at the five, have Kalani play the four, keep Satu at the three, but have Natasha Howard come off the bench for a few games. I would definitely love to see like how that goes because I think that Natasha Howard has like a pretty good engine on her. So she could probably come in and give you that really big energy that you need off the bat from your bench. But at the same time, you want your bigs in the down low to get going first. So
Yeah.
I would definitely love to see that.
Okay. Okay. And then as we kind of settle to the rest of the roster, Crystal
Hmm.
Dangerfield setting in as that starting point guard.
Love her.
Okay,
Love
okay.
her.
I thought so. Does a
Yeah.
lot of stuff for this team. The defense I'm a big
Mm.
fan of. Is that backcourt? Do you have any concerns about it being a little small, or are you just fine? Like especially with Enrique's better defense this season.
Mm. Yeah, I think they are small. Primarily more of when I think Veronica Burton might be shorter than Crystal. She might be. But
Oh,
I do think that Crystal is really good for the wings in the backcourt because she offers a little bit more composure to Enrique as the two guard. And also I think that she gets the wings going. Like I'll say Crystal and Odyssey are great people to start the game with. And then you bring in Vivi for that extra defense, that extra layer of passing and things like that once the team is actually going. And then also bringing Crystal back in as a closure, as the closer um, is really strong for the Wings as well. There's been a few games where she gets all her buckets in the fourth quarter. And then now she has like a double digit game, and you're wondering where did Crystal White score from? When did this happen? And it's usually in the first and fourth quarter. So I really love having Crystal back there with Enrique. I think she's probably the Wings' best pickup this offseason.
hmm. Okay, okay. As we kind of head over to the wing position now, it's kind of been
Mm-hmm.
Satu at the three to start at least, and then
Mm-hmm.
I guess any updates on say Diamond to Shields? How is Maddie Segrist looking? Anyone else in that position group?
Yeah. I think Maddie has potential to eventually start at the three for the Wings. However, Diamond's still hurt right now. She hasn't been with the team on a few trips. There hasn't been really any updates about her or Lou Lopez and Chaw. Sorry, got the hiccups.
No
There hasn't
worries.
really been an update about her or Lou Lopez and Chaw. So I think that right now, keeping Satu at the three is what's best for the Wings because they're able to play a little bit bigger with her there. And then Natasha Howard at the four, like she's growing on me. It's gonna get there. But I think that Satu staying at the three, if you're gonna have a big lineup of Natasha and McCowan or Kalani is best. And I think that she plays that position very well. I've been calling her like a floater all season. So one minute she's guarding at the perimeter, and next she's trying to post up for a shot or she's getting a steal. Like she's kind of all over the court. And I really like that position for her because she's playing to all of her strength.
All right, all right. Okay, so I think lastly, in terms of roster wise, Kalani
Mm-hmm.
Brown, Odyssey Sims. Where would this team even be right now without those two as hardship contracts?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think that Greg Bibb made a very big mistake not signing them at the beginning of the season. Kalani Brown definitely should have had a regular season contract, and I understand why they brought Odyssey Sims in late. But I think if they would have had Odyssey, Crystal, and Veronica at the beginning of the season together, overall point overall their guard positions would be a lot stronger, and things would
Mm.
flow a little bit more smoothly when they play with Enrique. But the constant shuffling them in and out, I think that kind of like stalled Dallas's backcourt for a little bit. But now like they're getting in a rhythm, like the engine is running and things like that. So I'm very happy that they picked up those two players during all the hardships and rest of the season, 7 days. I don't know how many contracts they signed at this point, but they were perfect for them.
Agreed. And it's been awesome to watch Kalani Brown, Odyssey Sims. I
Mm-hmm.
think it certainly surprised me. Kind of a
Mm-hmm.
surprise around the league, but she has been awesome as well
Mm-hmm.
for Dallas. I that's kind of it in terms of the roster that I was curious about. Let's go into
Mm-hmm.
this, I guess, the recent hot streak that they have, the 5 game winning streak, as well as highlighted since the last time we talked about the Dallas Wings on this podcast was the
Mm-hmm.
second team to beat the Las Vegas Aces across the entire league. So
Mm-hmm.
what did they prove during that span of games?
Yeah, I think Dallas had a similar hot streak the last 10 games of the season. Like I think they went like 9-1 going into the playoffs, and everybody was like, "What the hell is going on right now?" And they beat the Aces in Chicago in back-to-back games. Like it was crazy. So to see them do that again this year, I think the streak just shows that they have the potential to beat anyone, and what they're forming in Dallas is actually very contender like, but I'm not going to give them contender yet. I think give credit to Dorothy Gentry as she covers the Wings for the Athletic, and she asked Foxy probably last night, I think after the game, what is the future or are the what when someone asks you about the Dallas Wings, what do you say? And I think Satu sadly said the Wings are the future of the league, and I'm not mad at her. I think that is a very fair point. That you can start having Dallas if they continue to play like this in those conversations like we do Connecticut, to where they are stacked with talent, they're competitive, they have a really nice core, but they sometimes just can't get over the hump. But they're in conference finals. They get to the second round. They remain in the top 3, 4 teams of the league. Like I think we can start to talk about Dallas like that after this season.
That would be a wonderful thing. I think just really good for
Mm-hmm.
the franchise as well to stack
Yeah.
together some of those really competitive seasons back to back to
Mm-hmm.
back. So and I've liked from what I've seen from LT. I mean, you talked about kind
Mm-hmm.
of just the change already this season. Top three for
Mm-hmm.
coach of the year for LT?
Oh, definitely. I definitely have her in my top three. It's her, Becky, and Stephanie White. Becky and Stephanie White are a little like iffy because of the core that they have and the chemistry that the players naturally have in the court. I feel like it kind of makes Becky and Stephanie's job a little bit easier,
Ooh, okay.
but that doesn't take away Becky's clipboard moves. It is always moving, and I love to see her on the sidelines and getting the girls together. The same can be said for Stephanie White, and I think what LT has done with Dallas in the regular season alone should put her in the conversation for coach of the year. And she should definitely be, if not top two, top three.
All right. So we spent a lot of time talking about how this Dallas Wings team looking more towards the next 2, 3 seasons. But
Mm-hmm.
this season,
Mm-hmm.
and if say they're contender like,
Okay.
which teams do they match up best with at kind of at the top? Who do you see as those contenders and how do they match up with them?
Um, so of course, Las Vegas, likely
Hmm.
the New York Liberty, Connecticut Sun, and then Dallas. I'll have them as like my top four. But it's mostly because I think their front courts. I think they have very well organized front court that actually play well with the backcourt that they have. Like there's chemistry there, even though with the Wings it has to get ironed out, which is why I said they're not a contender yet. But when they are on during regular season games that we've watched so far, like it's clicking. like very fast. And once they get like a small whiff of like, oh, okay, this is how we're gonna play. Okay, yeah, let's go win the game. So I definitely put them up there with the with Vegas, New York, and Connecticut. And compared to them, I won't say I think Dallas has a few more strides to go when it comes to being like Las Vegas because again the natural chemistry that they have. But as far as the Liberty and in Connecticut right now, I think that they match up with them pretty well. And Dallas and Connecticut is a very gritty, the games are gritty, they're spicy, they're physical. It's a lot of hard buckets that you have to get, and I really love that from Dallas. I love to see them play scrappy games against top rate contenders because I really think that it brings out the best of them. Dallas sometimes has a tendency to play down depending upon like who they're playing. So to see them match up against like a top three team, like that's always when they're playing their best basketball.
You love to hear that about any team, but I like how
Yeah.
you bring up kind of they get into a dogfight a little bit,
Hmm.
where they can really muck up a game, and
Yeah.
that could prove positive come even this year's playoffs, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
I think that even last year when they played Connecticut in the playoffs, I think Dallas beat their own selves. I don't think that Connecticut did anything
ooh,
different. Yeah, I don't think Connecticut did anything different than play their normal game. And I believe Connecticut won the first game. I think Connecticut won
yeah,
first, Dallas
yeah.
won second, and then they went home to Dallas for the last game, and then they lost that game. I don't know what happened. It just seemed like the air got taken out of the arena, and Dallas just kind of fell flat. So that's why I said I don't think Connecticut did anything differently. It was just Dallas kind of like beating themselves up along the way.
So I think it'll be interesting to see if we do get a Connecticut and Dallas
Mhm.
matchup again, because obviously Bree Jones out with an injury that hurts. But I it's still the 5 out space in Connecticut's experience, the way Dewana Bonner's been playing along with
Yeah,
AT.
crazy.
Um, so I think that would be an interesting matchup to monitor. I like how they match up with the Aces in terms of just
Hmm.
having all those bigs down low and can match up with the twin towers of Candace Parker and Asia Wilson. And then New York, I think, is an interesting one as well for this
Hmm.
Dallas team. But I like how you fit them in there with them.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be a little bit higher. I'm gonna be hopeful that maybe they can play spoiler at the end of the year. That would be a lot more
Really?
fun. But
Mm.
I don't know that I would bet on it if I could, but
Yeah.
I just think that would be a little bit more fun. But no,
Okay.
I'm pretty high on where this Dallas Wings team is. Where could they improve in order to jump to that contender in just 10, 12 games?
Hmm. I really just think it's time together.
Yeah.
For them to be constructed, we already know how short the preseason is and the off season and things like that. We know how much time that they have together in training camp. But if players are able to build that chemistry up during the off season, I think that's really what's going to be the tell all. And they also need a wing. I would love to have some updates about Diamond DeShields to give right now, or
Yes.
to say that Maddie Sheegis is moving to the starting three position. But I think that if you don't want to wear out Satu from playing small forward, you have to eventually get a wing who can like perform for you, or maybe a couple wings. I'm not too mad at Maddie Seegers right now. I was a little concerned when she first came to the league because she was getting cooked cooked on defense. And I was like, oh, please don't do this to her. Please don't do this to her. But I think as the season has progressed, she's become a lot more confident. She's not afraid to go into the post either and defend. Like if she's just gonna get knocked down, she's gonna get knocked down. She's gonna get up and run to the other end of the floor. So I think that just a little bit more time together in development.
Yeah, yeah. The more time together, I think coincides perfectly with Maddie Segrist as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
More time just going to help her develop as a player. And then same to give Diamond to Shields a little bit more health, a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
healthy. But those are two wins that could very much help the Dallas wins. So I
Yeah, definitely.
that's an interesting point. And I think it's just overall pretty positive where this Dallas Wings
Mm-hmm.
team is. I think the shooting didn't start great this season
Mm-hmm.
for this team. They obviously have the height advantage down low. And we saw them kind of play really fast at the start of the season. And
Mm-hmm.
but they also have that opportunity to muck up a game, slow it down, and get it down low. So again, the optionality of this team, I'm pretty high on them. Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about them. Uh, where can,
Definitely.
where can we find more of your work?
Yeah, go on over to winsidr.com. That's WINSIDR. And you'll find all my work. I'm probably going to put out a Dallas piece next because I've let other people take the reins on them since they're having such a good piece. And I was like, I'll be nice. But yeah, just go over to Winsidr and you'll see all my work. And it's also pinned to my Twitter page, which is Harper XX Writes, WRITES.
I love it. Jasmine Harper, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed hearing from you, and I appreciate you for taking the time because, like I said, I've been trying to get this. This is a big time guest for a pro basketball show. So again,
Thank you.
thank you for joining.
Thank you. Had a lot of fun, Andrew, and I'm free to come anytime that you want.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, make sure to follow and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at APBShow and follow me at the AC Willett 22. Thank you so much for tuning in for a pro basketball show. I am Andrew Willett.